I'd like to ask you to turn to John chapter 19.
弟兄姐妹，如果你有圣经，请你翻到约翰福音19章。
I'm going to be speaking from verses 12 to 22.
我今天要讲的经文是19章的12节到22节。
But I'd like to read the entire passage beginning at verse 1.
但是我要读整章圣经从第1节开始。
So from verse 1 to verse 22.
从第1节到第22节。
But let's have part of this in Chinese and part of it in English.
我们中文跟英文都念。
So do I have a volunteer that can read the first 11 verses in Chinese?
有人自愿念中文的，从第1节到11节吗？
Anybody want to read the first 11 verses in Mandarin?
有人自愿念前面11节用中文念吗？
Any volunteers?
任何人自愿吗？
Okay, great. And then also from verse 12 to 22, I'll need an English volunteer. Anybody willing to read the English? 12 to 22.
12节到22节，我也需要一个志愿者念英文的部分。
Okay, great part. Okay, let's start with Amanda.
我们从中文的开始。
约翰福音19章第1节。那时，比拉多吩咐人把耶稣拉去鞭打，士兵用荆棘编成冠冕戴在他的头上，又给他披上紫色的外袍，然后来到他面前说：“犹太人的王万岁！”并且用手掌打他。比拉多再次出到外面，对犹太人说：“看，我把他带出来给你们，让你们知道我查不出他有什么罪。”于是耶稣出来，戴着荆棘的冠冕，披着紫色的外袍。比拉多对他们说：“看这个人！”祭司长和差役看见耶稣，就喊叫说：“把他钉十字架！把他钉十字架！”比拉多对他们说：“你们自己把他带去钉十字架吧，我查不出他有什么罪。”犹太人回答：“我们有律法，根据那律法，他是该死的，因为他自命为神的儿子。”比拉多听见这话，就更加害怕，又进了官邸，问耶稣：“你究竟是从哪里来的？”耶稣却不回答他。比拉多对他说：“你不对我说话吗？你不知道我有权释放你吗？也有权把你钉十字架吗？”耶稣说：“如果不是从天上给你的权柄，你就无权办我。因此，把我交给你的那人罪更重了。”
Verse 12. From then on, Pilate tried to set Jesus free. But the Jews kept shouting, "If you let this man go, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who claims to be a king opposes Caesar." When Pilate heard this, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judge's seat at a place known as the Stone Pavement, which in Aramaic is Gabbatha. It was the day of preparation of Passover week, about the 6th hour. "Here is your king," Pilate said to the Jews. But they shouted, take him away, crucify him." "Shall I crucify your king?" Pilate asked. "We have no king but Caesar," the chief priests answered. Finally, Pilate handed him over to them to be crucified.
22.
So the soldiers took charge of Jesus. Carrying his own cross, he went out to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. Here they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on each side, and Jesus in the middle. Pilate had a notice prepared and fastened to the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this sign, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and the sign was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. The chief priests of the Jews protested to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews, but that this man claimed to be the King of the Jews." Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written."
This passage reminds me of a YouTube video.
这段经文让我想到一个 YouTube 的影片。
Have you ever seen the video where the reporter walks around with a microphone and interviews people on the street.
你有没有看过一种影片，就是有记者他在街上大街上访问一些行人，
And the reporter has a question that she usually asks people on the street.
那这个记者通常他会问街上人一些问题，
And the question is usually, who is, and then she gives the name of a person.
那这个问题通常都是这个是谁，然后他会把这个人的名字讲出来，然后想要知道这些路人知不知道这个人是谁。
Now we're going to play this game at the beginning of the message today. I'm going to play roving reporter.
那信息开之前，我要玩这个游戏。
Okay? Now you don't know who I'm going to ask, but I'm going to ask somebody the question, and you can't talk about the answer with anybody else.
那你不会知道我要讲谁的名字， 然后如果你知道，你也不可以讲出来。
I'm going to ask you the name of who is somebody, and you have to tell me who you think they are.
那我会给你名字，那你要告诉我你认为这个人是谁。
And you might not know who they are,
那你有可能不知道我要讲的是谁，
but that's okay,
但没有关系，
because there's going to be different answers to the question. Okay, you ready?
因为可能有不同的答案。
Oh, we
准备好了吗？
can do this with volunteers, or I can walk around with a reporter. But here's the first question. Don't talk to anybody.
那这是第一个问题，那不要告诉别人答案。
Who is Margaret Thatcher?
Should I translate?
Yeah. Who is Margaret Thatcher?
谁是柴契尔夫人？
Okay.
柴契尔夫人
就是柴契尔夫人。
，That's Margaret Thatcher.
Margaret.
Thatcher.
But
circular reasoning.
okay. Who is Margaret Thatcher? Let me ask someone else. Who is? Let's see. Who is Margaret Thatcher? Okay. Somebody that he heard the name of before.
就是他刚听到这个人的名字，
Okay.
就
Let's
是那个
let's
人。
try someone else. Who is Margaret Thatcher?
谁是柴契尔？
Take a guess.
猜一下嘛。
Oh, she doesn't know. Okay. Who is Margaret Thatcher? No. No. Who is Margaret Thatcher?
She's also known as the Iron Lady.
Oh.
她也被就是大家也就习惯说她是被称为铁娘子。
Okay. Who is Margaret Thatcher? Yes, the former Prime Minister of the UK.
前英国首相，
Okay. Now most of you didn't know that, did you?
大部分人不知道对吗？
Okay. There was no agreement
没有共识。
on the question of who is Margaret Thatcher.
对于铁娘子对于柴契尔是谁，你们没有共识对吗？
One more.
再一个问题，
Now don't ask the person sitting next to you, okay?
不要问旁边哦，拜托。
Okay, here we go. Who is Kim Jong-il?
金
Jong-il.
金日成还是金正日？
The president of North Korea. Does anybody have a different
北
answer?
韩的总统有别的答案吗？
Anybody have a different answer?
其他人有别的答案吗？
Okay.
A crazy psychopath.
Okay. Okay. A crazy psychopath. So here's my point. When we come to this passage in John chapter 19, the reporter is walking around asking a question.
所以重点就是当我们读约翰福音19章的时候，那记者在问一个很重要的问题。
And it's a question about a political figure.
那这问题是关于一个政治人物。
And depending on who you ask the question, you'll get a different answer.
那你是谁问这个问题，会决定这个问题的答案。
And the question is very simply this: Who is Jesus Christ?
问题很简单，就是耶稣基督是谁？
Actually, I shouldn't say Jesus Christ, because if I say Christ, I'm already saying who I think he is.
事实上，我不应该说耶稣基督，因为当我说基督的时候，已经预设了我认为他是谁。
Let's just put it like this:
我们可以这样说：
Who is Jesus?
耶稣是谁？
Who is Jesus of Nazareth?
拿撒勒人耶稣是谁？
Now, when you come to this passage, you see that there is not agreement on the answer to that question.
那你看这段经文的时候，你就可以发现，对于这个问题的答案，大家都没有共识。
But let me ask another question.
我问另外一个问题，
The question is this: Why did Jesus have to die?
另外问题就是为什么耶稣必须要受死？
Now, when you ask this question to this passage,
当你真的这段经文问这问题的时候，
you will see that also there is not agreement.
你也发现对这个问题是没有共识的。
The two things are tied together.
但问题跟答案是合在一起。
Who is Jesus?
耶稣是谁？
and the answer to that question.
还有耶稣是谁的答案，
And the question of why did Jesus have to die?
还有就是关于耶稣为什么必须死这个问题。
Those two questions are joined together, and the answers to those questions are joined together.
这两个问题是互有关联，好像答案也是互有关联的。
So the first thing I want us to do is identify who are the different people with, or the different groups of people with different answers.
所以首先我要澄清，到底这段经文里面有哪几组不一样的人物？
Okay, look at the passage.
我们一起看这段经文。
We want to identify the groups of people that would answer the questions differently.
我们要看到不同的人会怎么样不同地回答这些问题。
Okay, who's the first key figure?
第一个关键人物是谁呢？
Pilate.
比
Okay.
拉多。
Who's the next group of people?
下一组人是谁呢？下一组人物是谁呢？
Okay, the soldiers. Good.
兵丁们。
Who's the next group of people?
下一组人是谁呢？
The chief priests.
祭司长，
Okay.
大祭司
Now,
长。
someone said ordinary people. Do we see any ordinary people?
有人说这边有路人甲，这边有一些路人甲在那边。
Okay, how about this?
这样呢？
Who's the last person?
最后一个人是谁呢？
No.
小孩。
Look at the passage. 来看一下上
我们要
经。
从经文回答，不是从会众里面有谁回答。
It's Jesus.
耶稣是耶稣。
If you ask him who he says he is, he will give you an answer.
那有人问他，你认为你是谁？他就会给出答案。
And that answer will be different
答案是会不一样。
from who Pilate thinks he is.
就是跟比拉多认为他是谁，答案不一样。
And that answer will be different from who the chief priests think that he is.
那祭司长所说的答案也会不一样。
Who are you, Jesus?
耶稣，你是谁？
Why did you have to die?
为什么你必须死呢？
And what on earth does that have to do with you and me?
那你到底跟我有什么关系呢？
Those are the questions we want to consider from this passage today.
这是我们今天要讨论的问题。
I'm not going to go through verses I'm not going to go through verses 1 through 11.
我不会仔细的看1到11节，
I want you to begin looking carefully in verse 12.
我让你仔细的看第12节。
A little bit of the background here for verse 12.
有一些简单的背景。
Pilate didn't really want to deliver Jesus up.
比拉多他并不是很想要把耶稣交出去，
And the reason why goes back to a conversation that happened in chapter 18.
那我们可以从第18章的一些对话里面看到线索。
When Pilate questions Jesus and Jesus answers Pilate's question, it scares Pilate a little bit.
当比拉多他询问耶稣一些问题的时候，耶稣的回应有点吓到比拉多了。
And Pilate was a little bit afraid of Jesus because of what he heard, so he didn't really want to deliver this man up to death.
比拉多被耶稣的回应有点吓到，所以他就不太想要把耶稣交给这些犹太人。
But something happened to Pilate.
但是有一件事发生在比拉多身上，
He was pressed against the wall.
比拉多他事实上他是有点违反
He was put in a very hard place
他被放在一个很尴尬的位置处境，
because of the conversations about who Jesus is.
因为对于耶稣是谁有怎么样的回应。
So let's look and see what happened. Verse 12.
我们看12节到底发生什么事情。
After Pilate's last conversation with Jesus,
比拉多最后一次跟耶稣谈话之后，
Jesus tells Pilate that he would have no authority to deliver him over to death if it hadn't been given to him from above.
所以耶稣跟比拉多说，如果不是从天上来的权柄，你就无权办我。
And therefore, the people who gave Jesus over to Pilate were guilty of a greater sin.
所以那一些把耶稣交给比拉多的人，就有更重的罪了。
And because of this, verse 12 tells us what Pilate wanted to do with Jesus.
因为12节有提到为什么
We can see in verse 12 what Pilate wanted to do with Jesus.
12节我们可以看到比拉多到底想要对耶稣做些什么。
The text says that Pilate made efforts to release Jesus.
经文提到说，比拉多他做了一些努力，想要释放耶稣。
However, the Jews got quite upset about this.
但是犹太人对于这非常生气。
And so we see in verse 12 and verse 13 what happened.
我们看12节、13节发生什么事情？
The Jews started crying out loud.
犹太人开始喊叫：
If you release this man, you're no friend of Caesar.
如果你释放这个人，你就不是凯撒的忠臣了。
Everyone who makes himself out to be a king opposes Caesar.
凡是自命为王的，就是与凯撒为敌。
When Pilate therefore heard these words, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judgment seat at a place called the Pavement, but in Hebrew, Gabbatha.
比拉多听了这些话，就把耶稣带到外面，到了一个名叫铺石地，希伯来话叫做加巴大的地方，就在那里开庭审问。第13节。
Now it was the day of preparation for the Passover.
那天是逾越节的预备日，
It was about the 6th hour.
约在正午的时候，
And he said to the Jews,
比拉多对犹太人说
Behold your king.：“
看你们的王。”
So if you ask Pilate the question, who is Jesus, how is he going to answer?
所以，如果你问比拉多耶稣是谁，他会如何回答呢？
Who does Pilate say Jesus is?
比拉多说耶稣是谁呢？他是犹太人的王，
Yeah, the king of the Jews. Now
犹太人的王。
that's who Pilate says he is. Now, if you ask the chief priests, who are they going to say that
所
he
以
is?
犹太人的王是比拉多回应。那如果你问这些祭司长，他们会怎么回答呢？
What does chapter 19 say?
19章怎么说呢？
How did the chief priests answer that question?
祭司长如何回应？
The same way as Pilate?
跟比拉多一样吗？
No, what do they say?
不，他们怎么说呢？
Right. Jesus isn't our king. Caesar is our king.
耶稣不是我们的王，凯撒才是。
So here's Pilate saying to the Jews, here's your king.
所以比拉多说：“哦，这是你们的王。
And here's the Jews saying, we don't have any king but Caesar. ”
祭司长说：“我们没有任何王，除了凯撒以外。”
And if you say there's any other king but Caesar, you're not a friend of Caesar.
所以如果你说除了凯撒以外还有其他王，那你就不是忠于凯撒了。
And with those words, in a sense, the Jews forced Pilate, for political reasons, to have to deliver Jesus back to the Jews to be crucified.
所以某个程度，这些祭司长他们用政治上的理由迫使比拉多要释放迫使比拉多要把耶稣交给他们。
We know that this is the reason why Pilate did it.
我们知道这是部分的原因，就是为什么比拉多要这样做。
We know it from verse 16.
我们看16节。
In the Greek it says, therefore, so then, in other words, because of this dialogue that just happened, Pilate delivered Jesus to the Jews to be crucified.
16节在希腊文原文里面有一个因此或说于是，比拉多把耶稣交给他们钉十字架，代表一个因果的关系。
Now, if you ask the Jews the question, who is Jesus, we know how the Jews would answer it.
如果你问犹太人耶稣是谁，你们知道犹太人会怎样回答他们？
They wouldn't say that Jesus was their king.
他们绝对不会说耶稣是他们的王，
But they would make a statement then about who it was Jesus said he was.
但他们会说耶稣说他自己是谁。
And so throughout this passage, one of the problems of the Jews faced was what Jesus said about himself.
所以犹太人面对的问题就是耶稣怎么样描述他自己的身份。
And in this conversation and in this dialogue around the cross of Christ, the key issue for the Jews is what Jesus said about himself.
所以跟耶稣钉十字架相关的这些人的对话里面，就是关于耶稣到底怎么样介绍他自己的身份。
Now look from the last part of chapter 18 through 19 and answer this question. Who does Jesus say he is?
所以从18章的后面一直到19章，到底耶稣说他是谁呢？
If you ask Jesus the question, who will he say that he is?
如果你问耶稣你是谁，他会如何说呢？
Because it was his answer that most infuriated the Jews. Infuriate, made them mad.
OK， 耶稣的回应让他们非常的不爽。
So who does Jesus say he is?
所以耶稣说他自己是谁呢？
Anybody find it yet?
有任何人找到答案吗？
Okay. verse 7 of chapter 19.
19章第7节，
What does that say?
经文说什么呢？
It tells us who Jesus made himself out to be.
第7节告诉我们，耶稣他把自己当做什么？
The Jews said, they answered Pilate and said, "We have a law, and by that law, Jesus ought to die because he made himself out to be the Son of God."
第7节，犹太人回答：我们有律法，根据那律法，他是该死的，因为他自命为神的儿子。
So from the words of the Jews, we know who Jesus thought he was,
所以从犹太人讲的话，我们看见耶稣认为他自己是谁，
the Son of God.
就是神的儿子。
Now the Jews didn't believe that,
犹太人不相信，
and they also did not accept him to be their king.
而且他们也不接受耶稣作为他们的王，
And because of that, they insisted that he be delivered up to be crucified.
因此他们坚持耶稣要被交出去处死。
Now, for many years, actually for most of the years of my life, I've read this passage, and I thought that Pilate was actually weak.
非常多年来，我读这段经文的时候，我都觉得比拉多是一个非常软弱的人。
But actually, when I began to read verses 17 through 22 this week, I began to see Pilate in a different light.
但是从我开始仔细的思想17节之后的经文，我对比拉多有所改观。
Rather than see Pilate as a weak ruler who was afraid of the Jews and the opinions of the Jews, I saw him as someone who was different.
认为比拉多并不是一个惧怕犹太人的小孬孬，他其实是一个蛮勇敢的人。
So we're going to look at this passage and see if you can see why it is I changed my opinion of Pilate.
如果你仔细读完经文，你就可以知道为什么我对他改观。
In verse 15 and 16, Pilate delivers Jesus over to be crucified.
15节、16节，比拉多把耶稣交给犹太人钉十字架。
But before he does that, he says to them, "Shall I crucify your king?"
但是在那之前，他跟犹太人说：“我应该把你们的王钉十字架吗？我可以把你们的王钉十字架吗？”
And then they say, "We have no king but Caesar."
但他们说：“我除了凯撒之后，我们没有王。”
And so then Pilate delivers Jesus over to be crucified.
所以比拉多把耶稣交给他们钉十字架。
Now look at verses 17 through 22.
看17节到22节。
Then they took Jesus, therefore, and he went out, bearing his own cross to the place called the place of a skull.
他们把耶稣带去了，耶稣自己背着十字架出来，到了一个名叫骷髅的地方。
Verse 18. There they crucified him, and with him 2 other men, one on either side.
18节，他们就在那里把耶稣钉在十字架上，和他一同钉十字架的还有2个人，一边一个，
And Jesus in between.
耶稣在中间。
And Pilate wrote an inscription also, and put it on the cross.
比拉多写了一个牌子放在十字架的上头，
And it was written, Jesus the Nazarene, the King of the Jews.
写的是犹太人的王拿撒勒人耶稣。
Therefore, this inscription
有许多犹太人念了这牌子上所写的，
many of the Jews read, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, Latin, and in Greek.
因为耶稣钉十字架的地方离城不远，而且那牌子是用希伯来文、拉丁文和希腊文写的。
And so the chief priests of the Jews were saying to Pilate, "Do not write, the King of the Jews, but that he said, I am King of the Jews."
所以犹太人的祭司长对比拉多说：“不要写犹太人的王，要写这个人自称我是犹太人的王。”
Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written."
比拉多说：“我所写的，我已经写了。”
Now my opinion of Pilate changed for this reason.
我对比拉多的观感因为这里的经文而改变，
Because I see that in spite of the Jews constantly saying that they think Jesus is someone different,
因为我看见即使犹太人不断的说耶稣基督并不是他像他所说的那样，
Pilate continues to say the same thing.
但是比拉多却仍然坚持的说耶稣就是犹太人的王。
Pilate, who is Jesus?
比拉多，耶稣是谁？
The King of the Jews.
犹太人的王。
He says it 3 times in the passage.
但经文里面他讲了3次一样的话，
He asserts it as a fact.
他坚称耶稣就是犹太人的王这个事实。
Rather than be somebody who has to follow the crowd and the multitudes, no, he stands up to the Jews.
他不是跟随众人的懦夫，而是他坚称一个事实。
even to the point of with his own hand writing the inscription that hung on the cross.
甚至到一个程度，他亲手写下了这个牌子，并且放在十字架上。
Notice the inscription.
我们注意看那牌子的内容。
Jesus, the Nazarene,
犹太人的王，拿撒勒人耶稣，
the King of the Jews.
犹太人的王。
And lest there be any question about it, he wrote it in 3 different languages.
为了避免有任何的争端，他竟然用3种不同语言写下了同样的话，
So that every single person who would see this man crucified would see the inscription of who he is.
所以任何看到耶稣被钉十字架的人都可以看到这牌子上所写关于耶稣是谁的答案。
His name, Jesus.
他就是耶稣。
Where he's from, Nazareth.
他从哪里来？拿撒勒。
Who he is, the King of the Jews.
他是谁？是犹太人的王。
No, Pilate, rather than being some weak king that always changes his mind according to the political will of the people, no, Pilate is a man who refuses to change his opinion of who he thinks Jesus is.
比拉多绝对不是一个顺应民意、政治正确的懦夫而已，他绝对是一个愿意坚持一个事实勇敢的人。
And this man who's gone from asking the question, what is truth?
而这些人在问什么是事实呢？什么是真理呢？
Is now asserting the truth of who Jesus is in spite of what everyone else is saying around the cross.
比拉多坚定地说，耶稣就是王，不管别人怎么说。
Now, brothers and sisters, I find this passage to be extremely interesting.
弟兄姐妹，我发现这段经文非常的有趣，
And there are a lot of application points that we can draw out of it.
有很多的应用，我们可以从这段经文当中得到。
Because I think that this passage actually teaches us how to have dialogues and how to have conversations about Jesus with people today.
这段经文告诉我们，我们如何和今天许多人来分享、介绍耶稣基督是谁。
Now, just like the question of who is Margaret Thatcher
就像我问你们说，谁是柴契尔夫人？
and who is Kim Jong-il,
金正日是谁？
a lot of people today have no clue who Jesus Christ is.
很多人根本就不知道耶稣基督是谁，
They don't even know that a Jesus came into the world.
他们甚至不知道耶稣曾经来到这世界上。
I've had so many experiences of sharing the gospel with Chinese taxi drivers in mainland China.
我在中国有很多跟计程车司机传福音的经验。
And I begin to talk about Jesus, and they're like, who is Jesus?
当我讲到耶稣，他们都会说耶稣是谁？
I never heard about Jesus.
从来没有听过耶稣。
And then I tell them about Jesus.
我就向他们谈论耶稣是谁，
And I tell them that he's the King of the Jews.
我就说他是犹太人的王，
And I tell them that he's the Son of God.
我也说他是神的儿子。
And you know what their response to that is?
你知道他们怎么回应吗？
No way.
说关我什么事？哎不，
You know what they say? And I'm going to speak Chinese. 他们说不可能。
不可能。
No, you got to speak English. If I say 不可能, you have to
They say
translate.
impossible.
Okay. 对。所以我现在要用中文解释一下。
I'm going to explain English.
所以我问这个司机先生，为什么你说不可能？你知道他回答说什么呢？
I'm asking this driver, why do you think it's impossible? Do you know what he says?
他说我们现在在哪里？
什么
他说我们现在在哪里？那个司机，
？Where are we now?
我们是在中国。
We're in mainland China.
中国是中国。
China is China.
如果神有一个儿子，他一定会让这个人到中国来。
If God really has a son, He must send him to China.
Yeah, because 中国 means middle kingdom, the center of the earth. Everything revolves around Beijing.
因为中国这个国家的名字就是世界上的中心，那北京就是世界的中心，所以应该要让神的儿子到中国来。如果神真的有儿子的话，
So, if God had a son and was going to send him into the world to save people, he wouldn't send him to this small, little, insignificant country over here in the Middle East.
所以如果上帝真的有儿子，并且要差遣他来拯救世人的话，他绝对不会差遣他到一个这么偏僻的、彼此大的小国这样。
The king of the Jews could not be the son of the living God. The king of the Jews could not be the son of the living
犹
God.
太人的王不可能是上帝的儿子，
You see, that's in the mindset of a lot of Chinese people.
这是许多中国人有的迷思。
Now, we're all guilty of that, aren't we?
我们都有同样的罪，不是吗？
We see our country as the center of the world.
我们总是觉得自己的国家是世界的中心，
And we see our cultural perspective to be the way to interpret the world.
我们视自己的文化比世界上一些文化都还要更优越，
So we need to be forgiving to the people who have that thought.
所以我们要饶恕那些有这样偏差思想的人。
But Pilate knew exactly who he thought Jesus was.
比拉多非常清楚知道耶稣是谁，
And in spite of the fact that the Jews stand there and tell him, don't write that.
就算犹太人在那里说不要这样写，
Now appreciate the humor of this. Here is Pilate, the magistrate. Pilate, the political authority. Here he is standing there at the cross. Pilate.
比拉多他站在十字架的面前，他是个有权柄的官员。
And Pilate himself is writing something.
比拉多他自己在牌子上写了一些东西，
And the Jews are standing there saying, huh, what'd you write?
犹太人在旁边就是很轻蔑的说：“你写什么东西啊？
You wrote Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews?
你写耶稣拿撒勒人，犹太人的王。”
And notice what the text says they said.
看经文写什么？
Don't say that.
不要这样写。
They're talking back to Pilate.
他们跟比拉多顶嘴，
You can't do that.
你怎么可以这样写呢
You？ can't do that.
你不可以这样写。
Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think it's very proper for a civilian to speak to the magistrate that way.
我不知道你怎么想，但是我认为一个老百姓不应该这样对官员讲话。
This is not only incredibly rude, this is just way inappropriate.
这不但是粗鲁而已，这非常不恰当的表达方式。
Don't say that.
不要这样说。
But brothers and sisters, in this dialogue today, we have an example of the conversations that are happening today.
对，从这段经文当中，我们可以看到今天也有许多类似的对话。
The chief priests and the Jews in this passage are just like the postmoderns today.
这些祭司长他们的想法就像后现代的想法一样，
They refuse to listen to anyone assert with authority who Jesus is.
他们拒绝任何人用带有权柄的方式坚称耶稣是谁。
And they will say to you, and they will say to every other Christian, oh, if you say that Jesus is the Son of God, don't say that. You say, instead, Christians believe that Jesus is the Son of God.
那他们会跟你们的基督徒说，不要说耶稣基督是神的儿子，你们要说我们相信耶稣是神的儿子。
In other words, in this environment that we live in today, there is no agreement about what is truth, and there is no agreement about who Jesus is.
所以在这个世代里面，对于什么是真理没有共识，对于耶稣是谁也没有共识。
And the thing that postmodern people find most offensive is anyone who asserts something to be true.
所以对后现代人来说，最令他们感到冒犯的事情，就是任何人坚称任何事情是真理。
Now, in this environment, it's okay for people to believe differently.
在这个氛围里面大家可以相信不一样的事情。
The Buddhists can believe what they want to believe.
佛教徒可以相信他们想要相信的。
The Hindus can believe what they want to believe.
印度教徒也是。
The Mormons can believe what they want to believe.
摩门教徒可以相信他们想要相信的。
The Jehovah's Witnesses can believe what they want to believe.
耶和华见证人也可以。
The atheists can believe what they want to believe.
无神论者也可以相信他们想要相信的。
The Christians can believe what they want to believe.
基督徒也是如此。
And everybody can believe something different.
每一个人会相信不一样的事情。
And you can even share that with someone.
你也可以把你相信的跟别人分享。
If you preface it with the remarks, well, Hindus believe there are 3 gods. If you preface the remarks, if you set up your remarks by saying, this is what Hindus believe, you can then talk about what Hindus believe.
你可以说印度教徒他们相信些什么，然后你可以去谈论他们所相信的东西。
Even as Christians, you can share what you believe.
就算是基督徒也可以分享我们所相信的。
But you cannot assert it as a fact or as a historical fact.
但是你绝对不能够宣称说这个是一个真实的事实真理。
People will allow you in a conversation to say, well, Christians believe Jesus was crucified.
其他人他会容许你说，基督徒是相信耶稣基督被钉十字架。
And they will allow you to say, Christians believe Jesus rose from the dead.
他们也会容许你说，基督徒们相信耶稣从死里复活。
But they will not allow you to say, Jesus Christ was crucified.
但他绝对不会容许你说，耶稣真的从死里耶稣真的被钉十字架。
And they won't allow you to say, Jesus Christ rose from the dead.
他们也不会容许你说，耶稣真的从死里复活。
Because just like in this passage, and just like what Pilate did, the minute you start talking like that, you are asserting facts.
就像这个经文里头所说的，这些犹太人他们不满之处在于比拉多他非常坚决的表达他所认为真的事情是什么。
Brothers and sisters, what we need to learn from this passage is we need to preach the gospel like Pilate preached the
所
gospel.
以弟兄姐妹，我们从这段经文要学习的是，我们应当像比拉多一样坚定地来传扬我们的福音。
And we need to face very clearly that the gospel brings us into a conflict with all other authorities.
而福音的信息就使我们与任何的权柄互相的敌对。
One of the things I learned from teaching 5 semesters of world religions class was this.
我还记得我曾经教过5个学期的世界宗教的课程。
During that class, I had to teach on all the different religions. We covered about 11 major religions.
在那堂课里面，我需要教导不同宗教的信仰内容。我们谈论了大概11个不同的宗教。
And I began to see that what the key issue is that over here, one religion has a certain authority.
所以我们看到有一个宗教，他们会非常有权威的讲述一个真理。
For example, the Hindus have as their authority the Bhagavad Gita.
比如说印度教徒会
Yeah.
某个神的名字这样。
Okay. And the Muslims have their own authority
穆斯林也有他们自己的权威，
in the Quran.
就是古兰经。
And the Catholics have their own authority.
天主教也有他们自己的权威。
But it's not just the Bible, it's also the apocryphal books, the books from the the additional books from the Old Testament times, and also the words of the Pope.
不只是我们基督徒天主教他们的权威经典，不只是我们现在基督徒我们有的圣经正典而已，包括一些次经，还有一些教皇的话。
And the Mormons have their own authority.
摩门教也有他们自己的权威经典，
They have the Book of Mormon.
他们有摩门经。
So the point is when you're having a discussion and people start talking, well, what if everybody starts asserting their truth?
所以重点是，当你看别人谈论宗教的时候，就会开始谈论到每一个人他们真正相信有权威的事情是什么。
You talk about God with the Hindus and they'll say there's 3 gods.
那印度教徒他们会认为有3个神
，2 are male,
，2个是男的，
and 1 is female.
还有1个是女神。
And they don't use the same names for God that we do in our Trinity.
那我们不会像我们在描述三位一体的上帝的时候，用同样的名号称呼上帝。
When you ask a Muslim, who is God?
当你问穆斯林神是谁的时候，
They don't say that God is a Trinity.
他们不会说神是三位一体，
They say that God is one.
他们会说神只有一位。
And when you ask a Muslim, what is God's name? They will say Allah.
那你问穆斯林神的名字是什么，他们会说阿拉。
And when you ask a Muslim, what is the authoritative scripture by which you live your life by? They will say the Quran.
那你问回教徒，对你来说有权威，你以此为依归的经典是什么？他们会说古兰经。
So brothers and sisters, just like in this passage, we have in our modern discussion today a conflict of authorities.
所以就像这段经文你所看到的，我们今天在信仰上的对话也是有冲突的，在不同的信仰上。
What the Christians believe is different from all the other religions.
基督徒所相信的跟其他宗教都是不一样的。
And when we preach the gospel, we have to preach it first as a historical fact.
当我们传扬福音的时候，第一个重要的是，我们必须把基督教信仰当作历史事实来传讲。
Jesus came into the world.
耶稣真实的来到这世界上，
He died.
他也死了，
He was crucified.
他被钉十字架，
He rose again.
还有从死里复活。
We assert these things as historical facts, regardless of whether or not other people believe in it.
不管别人是否相信，我们都坚称我们所相信的是真实的历史事实。
So in our conversations, we give people the right to believe it or not believe it.
所以在我们做福音对话的时候，我们给别人，我们提供机会让别人是否相信。
But we need to refuse to compromise on what we're saying.
但是我们不可以针对我们所讲的有任何的妥协。
If you don't believe that Jesus died on a cross, you're not a Christian.
如果你不相信耶稣基督死在十字架上，你就不是一个基督徒。
But if you don't believe that Jesus died on a cross, you're also not a student of history.
如果你不相信耶稣死在十字架上，那么你不但不是基督徒，你也不看重历史。
Because the Jews will even admit that Jesus Christ died on a cross.
因为就算是犹太人不信耶稣，他们也真的相信耶稣死在十字架上。
If you don't believe that Jesus rose from the dead, you're not a Christian.
如果你不相信耶稣从死里复活，你就不是一个真基督徒。
But if you don't believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead, you're also not a student of history.
如果你不相信耶稣从死里复活，你就不重视历史。
Now you can say to me, well, I don't believe that.
那你可以说我就不相信啊。
And I'll respect your right to believe whatever you want to believe.
当然我也会尊重你，有权利决定你要不要相信。
But I dare you then to try and refute the facts of history.
但是我敢这样跟你说，就是你拒绝了一个历史事实。
And the problem is today is that in our conversations with other people as we try and share our faith, it's all become so subjective.
所以今天我们跟别人讲福音的时候，有一个问题，就是我们变得显得非常主观。
Religion is all about finding peace.
宗教都是找寻心灵的平安，
Learning how to love other people.
学习怎么爱人，
Learning how to not fall into sin, be faithful to your spouse.
怎么样忠于你的配偶。
And so today when people think about religion, it's all about these subjective things. How can I find peace? How can I find forgiveness?
所以现代人讲到宗教信仰的时候，都是讲一些非常主观就是怎么样得到平安，怎么样爱别人这些事情。
Well, from my experience, I think the Buddhists have found a lot more peace than a lot of the Christians I know.
我认为，其实佛教徒如果真要说平安的话，他们找到平安比我们基督徒更多。
And I confess that I am Facebook friends with the Dalai Lama. I am. I am Facebook friends with the Dalai Lama.
那个牧师他是那个达赖喇嘛 Facebook 上的好友。
And I often take his posts and I share them with other people on Facebook.
我常会把达赖喇嘛说的一些话跟我 Facebook 的朋友们分享。
Because I really like a lot of what he says about peace.
因为我觉得他对于平安的一些想法，觉得是很有意义的，很好的。
But brothers and sisters, when we come to thinking about why it is that we gather every Sunday,
但弟兄姐妹，我们需要谨慎的思考，为什么每个礼拜都会聚集呢？
it's not just because we're gathering to find peace.
不只是我们在一起要寻找平安，
It's not just singing so we can find joy.
不只是我们唱诗歌很喜乐。
No, the reason why we're coming here is because we believe and we accept historical facts.
我们聚集的原因是因为有一个历史事实，
Jesus Christ died.
就是耶稣他死了，
And we believe that who he was the Son of God and the King of the Jews.
并且我们相信他是犹太人的王，他是神的儿子。
And we believe that he was raised from the dead.
我们也相信他从死里复活，
And we believe that he's coming back again.
我们也相信他有一天会再来。
And so when we look at these facts that are talked about in the Bible,
所以当我们看到圣经里头所讲的这些事实，
we don't just see them as empty, dry historical facts. We don't see them as empty, dry historical facts.
我们不把它看作只是一些无聊、索然无味的历史事件而已。
No, we see them as facts that have meaning for our own lives.
我们看这些历史事实是与我们个人有切身相关的。
When Paul takes the gospel and tells it to us as a historical fact,
当保罗他把福音当作历史事实来传讲的时候，
he tells us that according to the scriptures, Christ died.
他说根据圣经所记载，耶稣死了。
And then he adds this line, for our sins.
他说为我们的罪而死，
Not simply because he was delivered up
不只是他被交出去而已，
in a political argument.
不只是因为政治因素而被处死，
No, he was delivered up because God ordained it
他被交出去处死，因为上帝预定这事的发生，
for our sins.
为着我们的罪的缘故。
And we believe that he was raised from the dead
我们相信他从死里复活，
for our justification.
为着我们的称义。
And so today, as we think about this passage, we need to remind ourselves that it has a lot of meaning for us today.
今天当我们看这段经文的时候，我们必须提醒自己，这段经文真的有非常重大的意义。
This passage teaches us how to have conversations with people.
这段经文提醒我们该如何与人进行福音对话。
But this passage also tells us why it is that people reject Jesus as the King of the Jews.
这段经文也提醒我们，为什么人们拒绝耶稣基督是犹太人的王。
How is it that Pilate recognized who Jesus was, but the Jews didn't recognize it?
比拉多所坚持相信的，犹太人拒绝了。
When we have conversations, we have to recognize the fact that there is a spiritual blindness. People will look at the same facts and not see the same things that we do.
当我们跟别人做福音对话的时候，我们必须体认到，是有所谓的属灵上的瞎眼，他们跟我们一样都接收到同样的历史事实，但却有完全不一样的解读。
But the last thing we learn from this passage is that it teaches us that the authority of Jesus Christ is a threat to all other authorities.
这段经文告诉我们最后一点，就是耶稣基督的权柄对其他任何所有的权柄来说都是极大的威胁。
The main reason I find today that people don't want to be Christians is this.
我发现有一个原因让许多人都不想要成为基督徒的原因是，
I have never once had somebody say to me, "Oh, I won't become a Christian because I don't believe that Jesus was a historical figure."
我从来没有遇到一个人说，哦，我要信耶稣，因为耶稣基督他不是历史上真实的人物。
Not even once have I ever had that conversation with someone.
从来没有与人有这样的对话。
But you want to know why so many people don't want to let Jesus be who our text says he is?
你知道为什么大部分人都不愿意接受圣经里面所讲耶稣他是谁的身份吗？
Do you want to know why so many people refuse to say he's the King of the Jews and he's the Son of
你
God?
知道为什么这么多人拒绝承认耶稣是犹太人的王，耶稣是神的儿子呢？
Because that means that if he is the King,
因为这意味着，如果他真的是王，
not just of the Jews, but the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords,
不只是一个犹太人而已，而是万王之王、万主之主。
then that means that I don't have the right to decide how to live my life.
这就意味着我没有权利来决定该怎么过活，
I have to listen to someone else.
我必须听从其他人，
I have to follow someone else.
我必须跟随其他人，
I have to deny myself and take up a cross daily just like Jesus did and follow him.
我必须要天天背起自己的十字架，舍己来跟从耶稣。
And if I want to live, I have to die as well.
如果我想要活，我就必须先死。
I die to self and I live to God.
我像自己是死的，像神却是活的。
So this passage teaches us that Jesus, as the authority over all authorities, is the authority and should be the authority over all of our lives as well.
所以这段经文教导我们，耶稣他的权柄超越万有，耶稣应该在我们身上拥有最高的权柄。
So let me ask you this question.
所以让我问你这个问题：
Who's the boss?
谁是你的老板？
Who's the boss of your life?
谁是你生命中的大老板？
Who makes the rules?
谁制定规则？
Who decides what's right or wrong?
谁决定是非对错？
Is it you
你吗？
or is it Jesus?
还是耶稣呢？
You see, this passage is a challenge to each one of us to bow our knees before the King of the Jews and the King of all kings who is crucified and who's risen and who's coming back because he loves us enough to do everything that he's done for us.
耶稣基督这段经文里面促使我们在这位主面前屈膝，因为他曾经为我们的罪钉上十字架，又从死里复活，而有一天他会再来，他有最高的权柄。
Who is Jesus to you?
对你来说，耶稣是谁呢？
Is he your king?
他是你的王吗？
Is he your Lord?
他是你的主吗？
Is he your Savior?
他是你的救主吗？
Let's pray.
我们一起祷告。
Lord, we thank you today
主，感谢你，
that you did come into this world,
你真实的来到这世上，
that you died for our sins,
为我们的罪而死，
and that you were raised from the dead.
从死里复活。
And we pray, Lord, today that everyone would acknowledge those things to be facts.
求主帮助我们，今天我们承认圣经所讲的一切都是事实。
But we pray that these facts would have meaning in our lives.
求主使这些事实对我们都产生益处。
So when we say you're a king, it means we're willing to listen to you,
当我们说你是王的时候，帮助我们真的愿意听从你，
and we're willing to worship you,
帮助我们乐意敬拜你，
and we're willing to praise you for who you are.
愿意按着你所示来赞美你。
Lord Jesus, show yourself to be the king to everyone in this room.
哦，主耶稣，求你今天早上向这里所有的人显明，你是那真正的王。
And help us, Lord, in our conversations with others.
帮助我们在跟别人做福音对话的时候，
Help us, Lord, to be able to share who you are as we challenge people to believe that.
求主帮助我们知道怎么样来分享耶稣是谁，并且劝勉人来信你。
And we pray this in Jesus' name.
奉耶稣的名祷告，
Amen.
阿门。